Nancy Lieberman tears down Sheryl Swoopes over her ignorant comments about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark has been the talk of the basketball world for quite some time now. In fact, her popularity has brought the women's game to another level. However, with fame comes haters. Her biggest hater, Sheryl Swoopes, has been on a mission to downplay and discredit Caitlin for quite some time. Now it seems as if her taunts and criticisms have led to a rift in her friendship with Nancy Lieberman. Nancy Lieberman and Sheryl Swoopes are at odds over Caitlin Clark, specifically Swoopes' previous comments about the Fever rookie when she questioned the legitimacy of Clark's all-time scoring record at Iowa and claimed that she had a fifth year to break it. By the end of this video, you will see why Nancy Lieberman is right to distance herself from Swoopes, who seems to be on a downward spiral. For those who might not know, Nancy goes by the nickname Lady Magic. She is an American former professional basketball player and coach in the WNBA and is currently a broadcaster for the Oklahoma City Thunder. She was also inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame and Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Clearly, she does have the credentials to speak on what's been going on between Caitlin Clark and Sheryl Swoopes. And this all started when Swoopes blatantly lied about Caitlin's record-breaking achievement.
Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years. Well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year, and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
What Swoopes is talking about here is the women's all-time scoring record that Caitlin set, and in doing so broke Kelsey Plum's previous record. However, Caitlin actually broke the record in less than 4 years. So Swoopes was hating for no reason, but it didn't end just there.
Like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Like, you should be killing them. Because you've been doing it a lot longer than they have.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I know she can come back another year.
Here she is blatantly lying by saying that Caitlin was 25 years old when she was dominating in college, when in fact, Caitlin is still only 22 years old. At least if you're going to hate, you should do it in a clever manner so that it's not too obvious. Apparently, Nancy tried to help her former friend out and gave her some words of wisdom, but clearly, those words fell on deaf ears.
I called her as a friend, and I said, you know, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion.
But it doesn't stop there. Swoopes continued to misinform the public about Caitlin in order to push her own agenda.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Carry on.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
I said that because when she comes to the league, regardless of what team she goes to that has vets on that team, she probably ain't gonna get 40 shots a game.
Again, blatant lies. At the time, Caitlin was taking 22.3 shots a game, which was actually lower than the number of shots Swoopes took in her college tenure. Since then, Swoopes has continued to take shots at Caitlin. She has doubled down on her hate, which really calls into question why the former three-time WNBA MVP has an issue with Caitlin. In fact, her hate even caused a rather awkward moment on air when the Dallas Wings took on the Las Vegas Aces on NBA TV. While Clark obviously was not a part of that game that Swoopes was calling, she did make a brief cameo during a stoppage in play as play-by-play man Ron Thulin noted the WNBA's Players of the Week, as Thulin called attention to Clark's impressive week in which she averaged 25 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. Swoopes remained noticeably silent, not saying a word until play resumed. Now you can tell this is an ego thing, because when Nancy tried to help her out and make her do the right thing, Swoopes essentially ended their friendship.
And so our relationship, it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good or great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life. I'd rather have her in it.
To further show how someone mature would have handled this situation, Nancy mentioned that when she saw Kennedy Carter's cheap hit on Caitlin Clark, she would have responded quite differently than Caitlin.
What would you do if somebody kind of blindsided you like that? And you know me, I'm straight from New York, straight from Brooker Park. I said I would have
Yes.
gotten up. I would have walked up to whoever did that to me. I would have punched him in the face, and you know the expletive that I used. And I would have said,
Yes.
you know, F off. That is who I am.
Saying that she would have punched Kennedy did not sit well with everyone, including Nancy's friend, Teresa Weatherspoon, who then called her and told her she was wrong for that. But instead of cutting Weatherspoon out of her life, Nancy took the time to listen to her comments, and the two are still friends.
But we had this conversation, which we apparently cannot have with me and Sheryl Swoopes. And I still think she was incorrect about what she did. And, you know, we all have to be professional, right?
Swoopes is the one not being professional. There was an incident on her podcast where Swoopes talked about the improvement of Indiana Fever, crediting the break rather than Caitlin's incredible play.
I do want to say this because we talked about the Olympic break, who it could help, who it could hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the complete opposite with two teams, the 7th and 8th place team. I think the Olympic break really helped Indiana.
Absolutely.
Like,
Swoopes showed how petty she can really be when she decided to credit players like Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston, who have also been great since the team's return from the Olympic break, but there was never a mention of the Fever star point guard. She believes Indiana will keep moving up in the standings if they are able to keep playing at this level, especially with Hull, Mitchell, and Boston's success.
shout out to Lexi Hull. I'm a big Lexi Hull fan. Watch her in AU. Lexi Hull shot the leather off the ball in their game against Seattle and just couldn't miss. Kelsey Mitchell is just stroking. She is just shooting the basketball. Aaliyah Boston, almost a triple-double.
Conveniently, she forgot about Caitlin's historic record. Heck, Swoopes gave Angel Reese a shout-out instead for losing a game.
Before I get into that, I am going to say this. Shout out to Angel Reese, even in a loss. Listen, 20 boards.
It's crazy.
20 boards. Say what you want to say about how she's getting all these rebounds. Not everybody can get 20 rebounds. I don't care if you're rebounding your own.
Pretty unprofessional.
Do your job. You get paid to do a job as a broadcaster. Do your job. Nobody says you have to be in love with anybody else, but if you're going to do an Indiana Wings game, you're going to have to talk about Caitlin Clark and her great teammates and what they're doing, and they have, you know, Aaliyah Boston.
So when you make your biases so blatant, it really downplays anything that you have to say. That's the issue that Swoopes is facing now. Whenever she champions another player, there is this underlying thing about her not giving Caitlin Clark her credit, when in reality, you can give Caitlin her props and also shine a light on other talented players. But what Swoopes is doing is downright ignorant and idiotic, according to Nancy.
Not build around it. You know, when I was playing, you would have looked like an idiot if you didn't, when you talked about Old Dominion, you know, 2-time national champions and 2-time player of the year, and you didn't talk about me. You'd look like you're ignorant.
And that's the issue.
In fact, Swoopes' dislike of Caitlin is even getting in the way of her professional career.
What incriminates, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, but what incriminates somebody like Sheryl Swoopes even more, who, by the way, was supposed to be calling the game with y'all yesterday, and she did not call the game, and no doubt it had something to do with the fact that when, you know, how Caitlin Clark had performed early in the week, she didn't want to talk about it at all, so we recognize that.
Wow, talk about being petty. Now, of course, Swoopes wasn't going to take this lying down. She quickly hopped onto X and had a reply ready for Nancy. She said, "Now here you go. I get what you are trying to do with your boy Stephen A. Smith, but it ain't working. You know good and well what happened. And ditto, my life is good without you too, and him. You want to go there?" Now, instead of taking the opportunity to reflect on her mistakes, Swoopes immediately became defensive. No wonder she cut out Nancy from her life after Nancy tried to put her on some game. Many fans have also turned on Swoopes, saying that she is clearly jealous of what Caitlin has already accomplished in such a short amount of time. Caitlin is already part of the WNBA history. Not many rookies can say that. Swoopes is also making history, but for all of the wrong reasons. She is looking like Caitlin's biggest hater.
It's like I always tell people at this stage, your ego's not your amigo. Okay, your ego is not your friend. We have to humble ourselves and do our job and just recognize that, you know, Caitlin might not be her cup of tea, but she's not doing anything to hurt Sheryl Swoopes. She admires Sheryl Swoopes.
Now, it would be a shame for the new generation of WNBA fans to only know Swoopes for hating rather than her incredible basketball career. But there is only so much you can do when you're going out of your way to downplay and discredit someone as historical as Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, Nancy is willing to put her own ego aside and do what is necessary to expand the game of women's basketball.
I will do anything for women's basketball. I'm just a servant leader here. At one point in my career, I wanted to be the greatest of all time. And now I just want to be a great, person that supports this generation of greatness.
That sounds like a true vet and a Hall of Famer.